Hello, I'm Phil Jacobus. I'm here at my home in Woodstock, New York. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm I'm going to be showing you an interview I did on Friday afternoon with Dan Vukelich. Very interesting, a very interesting and compelling interview. I interviewed him on Friday, but I interviewed several people on Friday, so I'm showing his interview today. But before we visit with Dan, let's take a look at Healthcare Business News Online and the latest news. I believe that the most significant piece of news is that Siemens has purchased Varian for $16.4 billion. This is interesting on many levels. You might remember, those of you who are old enough might remember that Siemens was in the oncology business years ago and got out about, I think it was 10 or 11 years ago, because Varian was such a dominant player. There's been a lot of relations between Varian and Siemens, sharing, data processing, informatics, and now Siemens has made the plunge and they're buying the company. So that will be a very interesting event, and it has to be approved by the regulators, but stay tuned. Okay, let me welcome my guest, Mr. Dan Vukelich, who is the president of AMDR, which stands for the Association of Medical Equipment, or Medical Device Reprocessors. Sorry, Dan, I got it.
No problem.
And Dan, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good to see you.
You know, Dan, for those, I'm of course familiar with AMDR, but for those who are not, from 5,000 feet in the air, can you give us just a brief overview of what it is?
Sure. So the Association of Medical Device Reprocessors, or AMDR, represents commercial or professional medical device reprocessing or remanufacturing companies. What we do is remanufacture single-use medical devices, electrosurgical scalpels and forceps, biopsy forceps, devices used in the EP cath lab within a hospital cardiology unit, and then patient contact but non-invasive devices like pulse oximeter sensors. And our members include subsidiaries of original equipment manufacturers and independent companies.
I see. And how long has AMDR been around?
This is our 21st year. We celebrated 20 years last year.
I see. Congratulations. You know,
thank you.
Coincidentally, that's our age as well. So.
Oh, really? Well, happy birthday to you too.
Yes. So, you know, tell me, how have you been? Where are you? How's it going during?
I've been well, working a lot. I split my time between Washington, D.C., where AMDR is based, and my home in Fort Lauderdale. I came down here, I think, the first week of March, expecting just to be here for a week. And here we are now in nearly August, still here. So as a guy who travels all the time, it's been a bit of a life adjustment being in one place for a long time. And other than putting on a little weight from all my cooking, it's going really well.
Right. So reprocessing, you know, intuitively you understand it's a good thing. Mm-hmm. How has COVID impacted reprocessing?
Yeah, hospitals have reprocessed, as we've talked about before, mainly to save money. And now we're seeing reports, including one last week from the American Hospital Association, that half the hospitals are now in the red. And so the need to save money is now more important than ever. And so I think reprocessing is going to be more important than ever. As to the impact now, it's different for different members. We have some members that focus on devices that would be used wholly in elective procedures. And so when those stopped, that stopped a lot of operations. But I have other members who do devices that are just patient contact, like pulse oximeter sensors, or even face shields. And so business is booming for them. Either way, coming out of this, we're going to be focused on pressing reprocessing more than ever as a cost saving, but also a supply chain resiliency issue. Everything's going to change after COVID, and we're going to start to look at medical devices as assets, not trash.
What about costs? Have costs gone up for reprocessing during COVID because of the difficulty to move things around? Have they gone down?
I don't believe costs have gone up or down. It has been more difficult for us on collections Obviously, in order for a hospital to get the benefits of reprocessing, we have to collect the product in certain bins, ship them to our facilities, and send them back. So we've had some hiccups there, but we're urging hospitals just to continue that supply chain to us so that they can ignore the safety savings and so sort of sustainability benefits that come with those reprocessed products.
What factors, or maybe this is too delicate of a question, and if it is, we can edit it out, but
Okay.
what factors prevent reprocessing from happening? What business forces are slowing down the growth of reprocessing?
Well, that is a complicated question. There are lots of answers. I think one, inertia. In the way healthcare is delivered, we've been wasteful. We've often, and not that we would reprocess a disposable glove, but now we see with respirators, people have been very wasteful in healthcare and just throwing things away. And I don't think we're ever going to take things for granted again, nor should we. And so we need to look at those scalpels and EP catheters and other devices as a valuable asset. And so that's sort of the concern on the clinician side or on the healthcare provider. Our competition from other manufacturers is mainly the use of forced obsolescence by inserting a chip, an EEPROM chip in a device that will turn it off after a single use. We can validate the cleaning, we can validate the sterilization, we can validate the functionality, but that's just one extra step, is to have to reset that chip. And so that's a big threat to the growth of reprocessing, as it really stifles the hospital's ability to reprocess more.
Do you think that the need to overcome shortages, or the shortages that we've had, will help lobby to discontinue the use of those chips?
Well, I hope. I mean, here at AMDR, we're going to be making our pleas to healthcare providers that you need to treat these as assets, and we're your partner to help maximize the lifespan of these products. But we're also appealing to other manufacturers. My members are manufacturers. They're independent of original manufacturers, and some of them are subsidiaries. But instead of making devices as disposable intentionally so that the manufacturer can sell more devices, we say, call us, let's work together and give the healthcare provider a device that has a longer lifespan, that has a lower cost per use. So we'd like to see more collaboration, and I hope that COVID is a wake-up call for that issue.
Has there been any talk of designing a product so that it lends itself to reprocessing versus lends itself to single use?
Absolutely. So some of my members do design products that way. The reality is, I think a lot of people just assume the universe of medical devices is black and white. It's reusable or single use. And here we are reprocessing single-use devices, and people think, well, that's counterintuitive. The purpose is for cross-contamination or infection. So if we're looking at, for lack of a better explanation, an umbilical cord scissors, the manufacturer said that's safe and effective for one use. Does that mean one cut? Two cuts? I mean, how many cuts can an umbilical scissors cord make? Many. The point is that you need to make sure it's clean and sterile and sharp between each use. And so that's what we're doing. And so we'd like to work with manufacturers, and the reprocessors that are subsidiaries of manufacturers are beginning to look at products more holistically. And I think that's one good thing coming out of all of this, is that I hope the consumer is going to demand more of that.
Now, is this, in addition to consumer demand, is there a government element in this process? Does the government have to get behind the idea, or are they laissez-faire?
Well, they've been laissez-faire, but I'd love it if the payer, if government in the US is paying for about half of healthcare, I would think that they should be demanding they get more for their dollar. So I'd love that. In Europe, where we're beginning to expand, there is a move towards a circular economy. And so AMDR is going to be petitioning the European Commission as part of their stakeholder engagement to include medical devices, so that the healthcare consumer understands that there are remanufactured options, or they can choose at the outset a device that's been intended to be reused.
Now, is there room for startups, for small companies that do this work locally, or does it really require infrastructure on a big organization?
Well, there's a lot of untapped potential. So there is room for tremendous growth, including new players, and including niche players who focus on particular product lines. But yes, the regulatory threshold is quite high. in order to reprocess a device in the United States and now Europe or Japan and Canada, meaning a single-use device, you need to meet all the requirements as if you were the manufacturer and label it and take ownership of the product as if it was your own. And that's a high burden. So there won't be any mom and pop operations. There takes considerable investment to get FDA clearance or approval. But there's a lot of opportunity for growth.
And do you advise startups on that sort of thing, or are they on their own?
I don't, but I do want everybody at the table at my association. So anybody in this business, I'd like to have represented. So I do encourage them to reach out. But in terms of potential, one recent analysis shows that while most hospitals are reprocessing, they're doing a tiny bit of what they could. In the EP cath lab, my whole industry is doing about $500 million a year right now. But the EP cath lab could do $500 million tomorrow. Meaning in this next year. And that's just one product line. And we have hundreds of product lines.
Well, I'd like to think of myself, I hope I don't get in trouble with anyone, but I'd like to think of myself as an environmentalist, and anything that makes us more efficient, use less, I think is a good thing. So I wish you luck in your organization. And I know that you're a committed guy and a very charming fellow. So I thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, it's a pleasure, Phil. Thank you. Stay healthy.